Hi, my name is Michelle Stokotelny, and today I'm going to be talking to you a bit about pendulums and how to use them. A pendulum is a wonderful tool to help you get to seek answers from your higher self. What the higher self means to me is your subconscious mind. This is the part of within you that remembers past lives, as well as every memory that you don't currently have in your conscious mind, such as from when you were a child. Your higher self knows why you're here. It remembers all of the lessons that you came here to learn. And so it helps us to connect with that part of ourselves that we all do have the ability to connect with, but it's very important not to use such tools as a pendulum to make all of our decisions while we're here. We are here to learn, and thus we have the free will that we need to do to work with to make our own choices. Even if we feel like something we chose became a mistake, it served a purpose with regards to helping you learn your lessons while you're here. So when you use a pendulum, it's all about working with, again, not with spirit. You don't want to use this to connect with spirit. We have our psychic abilities to connect with energy, and we have our mediumship abilities to connect with spirit. A pendulum is kind of before all that. That is connecting simply with your higher self. The other thing that a pendulum will not do is give you answers about what someone else will choose to do. Often people will ask if I can use a pendulum to determine whether or not someone will, if they're a good match within their relationship, or if they will have a child. Most of those kind of questions also involve life lessons, and much like with spirit, there just can be no interference in that. So some people will use them for that purpose. I highly recommend against it, because there is also that aspect of free will. Because if you ask for somebody that if they will have a child within the year, you're not being very specific. It could be easily something else other than what they presume it will be, as well as sometimes if you give an answer that the sitter wants to hear, they are no longer trying for something, or no longer working towards gaining that thing that which they wanted, and thus it becomes a false prophecy because it doesn't work out. So we have to be very mindful about what we ask a pendulum and how we ask it. I'm very careful with my words for a pendulum. I try to focus on asking in a way that leaves little room for free will, as well as focusing strictly on the person it's for. So if it's, say for a relationship, if somebody asks if it's a good relationship for them, generally, of course, if somebody has to ask, I already assume that there are some doubts. So that tells me a lot right there. So if you're going to ask for something like that, I would word it as, is this relationship currently in the best interest of this person? And the pendulum will, say yes or no. Sometimes a maybe. Again, that would usually refer to the learning of life lessons. If I get a maybe, it tends to be that the answer would interfere and I cannot receive it. But a pendulum, I find, is best for you to use for yourself. And so what I would do, I'll show you how I use mine. I place the top part between my thumb and my index finger, and I let it hang and kind of settle in, and then I put my hand underneath it. It's almost like providing it with my own energy. And so what I do is I will ask two questions that I already know the answers to. The reason I do this, it's like testing the pendulum to make sure that it's working and everything else before I ask anything else that I don't know the exact answers to. So the two questions, for whatever reason, ever since I picked up my first pendulum, that I've always asked it for yes and no, are, am I a medium? So I ask, am I a medium? And the pendulum starts to move back and forth, and that tells me, yes, I am. Okay. So when I finish asking a question, I remove my hand it's like clearing the energy. I don't know why exactly I started doing that, but that's what I do. And so when I ask my next question, I place my hand again under the pendulum, and then I ask, am I a cat? Which of course I am not. So it shakes its head side to side. I am not a cat. I don't know why that was the first thing that I thought of to ask for, but it works, and I've just stuck with it ever since. So once I'm done, I remove my hand and it stops moving. Okay, so when I ask a question, I get a maybe. Trying to think of one that I can ask for maybe. Something like, oh, will I be happy today? And it starts to go around in a circle because, that's kind of my choice. Am I going to be happy today? I have to choose that for myself. So when it starts to go in a circle for me, that tells me a maybe. And these might be completely opposite for you. A circle for you might mean yes, and frontwards and backwards might mean no. This is what works for me, and this is how pendulums have always worked for me. So you have to find what works for you based on asking those questions and kind of getting comfortable with using a pendulum like this. So other things that you can use a pendulum for are to determine whether or not something basically is for, it would be for your benefit. If you're not sure about trying a certain food, for instance, you can ask, if I eat this certain food, is it likely to agree with me? Often people will ask about jobs. That's another tough one because the employer has free will. So I can't usually answer that question, but I can ask, based on everything that the sitter has done so far, is it likely that they will be considered for this job, or something like that. Something that kind of removes the free will aspect of the other people involved, the third-party people. But of course it can't be perfect. So, we give what we get, and we have to let it go, knowing that, there's still free will, and the sitter has to kind of go on and do their very best. Sometimes I'll ask follow-up questions too, such as, is the sitter doing everything they can within their power to ensure that this outcome occurs? And the pendulum can tell me maybe or no, and so we can kind of go a little further. Do they need to focus on, updating their resume, for instance, and asking questions like that, which can kind of lead to giving more answers for what the sitter really needs to hear, as opposed to just a simple yes, you might get it, or no, you might not. So it really depends on what you're trying to ask the pendulum. Again, I highly recommend not using it for spirit communication. If you want to get to that level where you're working on your mediumship skills, pendulum is a good place to start. Then working on your psychic abilities, which is not connecting with spirit, and then working towards your mediumship abilities, which is of course the clairs, as we call them, the clairvoyance and all the other senses that we all have within us that we can develop and strengthen through practice and a lot of experience. So I hope that this helps you get started with using your own pendulum. Figure it out, what ends up being your yes, and what ends up being your no, and what ends up being your maybe. And then from there you can start asking test questions, start asking questions from your friends, try learning how to word things that, in a sense, that removes the free will aspect the best that you can. It does take practice, but it's very worth it to learn how to word things properly so that you get the most likely correct answer. But again, don't put 100% trust in this to answer your every question about anything ever, or to use it as a way to make all of your life's decisions. You have free will for that, and you can trust your own intuition for that, as well as asking your guides. I hope that you found this useful and that you have fun using your pendulum. God bless.